now I would like to welcome you to our session today, where we'll deal the question of GPT in management consulting. My name is Pavol Sikula. I'm the founder and CEO of AskBrian, and today I will share some insights, learnings from our 16 months with GPT in consulting. First, so we are talking about GPT in consulting. What is it good for and what is it bad for? So I'm CEO and CEO and founder of AskBrian, and we are working on the intersection of AI, new work, and digital workplace, and we are dealing with this technology probably longer than the most people. And this is our story. So what we are doing, we are building an AI-powered work companion. I wish I had during my 15 years in consulting, so I know consulting quite well. I've been working for Roland Berger in Munich and Stan Stewart, especially restructuring large support functions of large corporates, always when it came to reducing cost, optimizing structures, and automating processes. Then after 15 years in consulting, I switched to Brian, which I'm building since December 2017. And we are working with the GPT technology since end of 2021. So we see us kind of on the forefront of implementing this technology in consulting. So the structure of our talk today will be the following. First, I will make the introduction about consulting versus generative AI with some learnings, observations, and so on. Then I would give you an insight how we at AskBrian work with generative AI and how our digital assistant included or integrated this technology into his skill portfolio. Then I will give you some outlook. So as a third point is where we believe that the development is going, like in the industry, at AskBrian, but also what I'm the most excited about when it comes to future developments of AI at work. And then we'll have the Q&A session. As I said, it would be great to, if you have questions, just state them in the chat section. It would be great to have an interactive element in this webinar too. So I will, for one moment, I hear that someone is not on mute. I would like to mute yourself so we don't have this noise in the meeting. That would be just great. So first, we thought it would be great if you could give us some insights what your experience with ChatGPT or Brian at work is. Okay, in the chat you see a link. If you click on it, then you can answer these two simple questions, or if you scan this QR code with your mobile phone, you will be asked directly to provide your answers. So you don't need to register anywhere or download anything. It's really just two questions. The first one is if you are using already ChatGPT or Brian at work, you are using the one, the other, or both, or none of them. And the second question is rather, what is your company policy regarding ChatGPT? Because when we talk with many consultancies about adoption of AI, we face different setups. That means that some companies say we prohibit our employees to use the technology at all, like it's a red flag because data processed in USA and data used for retraining the models and so on. Then there are some companies saying, yes, use it, but with your private email. Then there are many companies, of course, not having any policies. And some rather few companies say, yes, feel free to register to this service using your business email, so that you really show who you are and for which company you are working. So this is a real-time survey. Let's see what the results are. Maybe I will wait. But now I see we have 25 responses. So I'm switching here the results. Your results, I see that the most of you, I mean, the most votes we have in both. That means working with ChatGPT and Brian. Then we have ChatGPT users, some who are using only Brian, and only two who are using none of them. And the second question, let's see what the result is here. So, this is interesting. So in the most cases among the participants, there is no policy at all. So probably then the employees need to decide how they do it. And there is only one company which is not allowing GPT or ChatGPT at all. Thank you very much for this insight. I think this is quite interesting, that usually it's not regulated how employees or everyone, staff members, are allowed to use this technology. So thank you very much for sharing this. So I understand, so there are many of you already knowing ChatGPT, so that's great. This is also what we assumed. So we don't need to start with the very basics, but rather jump into more details. First, maybe some timeline with some remarks. What I find interesting that there is a big hype now about ChatGPT and so on, but this is a development, of course, which took over years. What I find quite interesting and what not too many people know, all these large language models now, if it's a GPT from OpenAI, or if it's a BART from Google, or if it's Aleph Alpha from Germany, all these are based on one scientific paper published by Google in 2017 called Attention is All You Need. And it's interesting, especially, and it's an advantage that we are using with the using the technical interface to the systems, and all the systems work basically the same, with the same settings, with the same logic. So that means no matter if you are using Aleph Alpha, OpenAI's GPT, or BART, what we expect, it will be exactly the same, like the structure, the logic, how this system works. So for us, a big milestone was the release of GPT end of early 2021, when we also started to work with this technology and included it into Brian. And of course, the most people know Brian after the release end of on November 30th, 2022, with the release of 3.5, and then of course later on the GPT-4, which is of course way smarter than the original version. But these key messages: Google started it all. Interestingly, they have the best cards to win this game, but now, of course, the momentum is on OpenAI's game side. But somehow I believe that Google has good chances to come back even stronger. Yeah. So then when we talk about GPT in consulting, what we see in the discussions when we talk with other consultancies is that it triggers security and privacy concerns. There are, as I know, also consultancies saying this is a no-go, this is prohibited, but many also try to open them up, also then driven by the Microsoft Copilot discussion. Then there are also questions assessing the business model impact of generative AI on super AI, as you could call them, versus consulting. I would say the more commoditized the portfolio of consultancies are structured, the higher impact it will have, and it will have quite significant impact the more structured project portfolio you have, or product portfolio you have. Then, of course, there is so much going on every day, every week, every month, that it's difficult to follow, even for us, which are following these developments as kind of full-time job. It's not that easy to catch up, and I think it's just, for the most people, it's just going too much on. Employee training needs. So I know that many are triggering trainings in this regard, because also your clients will, of course, ask you for advice as consultants, what this technology means for their business, for their processes, and maybe for their business model. And this is also a large project opportunity or client project opportunity. Because we have seen it on the partnerships communicated, for example, also by Bain and so on, with large partnership with OpenAI. There is a huge potential in this technology, and this is also reflected that many consultancies are striving for tech partnerships with generative AI technology startups and so on. And of course, last but not least, and this will be the focus of our session today, short session today, is the productivity increase potential for the employees. Yeah, so we see always the latest technology as a chance to make the consulting job even more enjoyable, more fun, to deliver faster, better results. So this is the goal. And maybe also on this page, I'm very much focusing on consulting. I know we have in the call also some participants from other companies. Please excuse me, I wanted to make it really very crisp for the consulting industry, but you will see that many of the examples I will show are also relevant beyond consulting, as we see it also with our Brian. So what is Brian, not what is Brian, what is GPT good for and what is at least currently not good for? And here's some examples and maybe a structure how we think, see the things. So I will start with the good things and I will dig deep into all these elements. So I will not explain all of them. There are the next slides dealing especially with these good for elements. Is the text-to-text use cases, how we call them. That means this is the first stage of the generative AI wave, as I would say, is that people are just chatting with ChatGPT. That means they provide written text and receive written text. So as of now, in the ChatGPT, you cannot upload or generate files really. And this is only the first phase, but it's important that there are so already clear signs and examples that it will go further, where you will, with one simple prompt, you will get a file or a document. That means you will ask for analysis, for examples, for best practices, and you will get really ready to use documents based on your request. And then the third stage will be, and I think this will be faster than we all think, is anything to anything use cases. For example, you will share a website and you'll get a PowerPoint deck about this particular company, or you will share a YouTube video and you'll get a summarized document, of course, with the highlights of the video and maybe things which you should have a look at. Yeah. So, but first we focus very much on these text-to-text use cases. So the first wave, I'd say, I'll get to this later on, a little bit more detail. On this page, I would like to really focus on the bad for. The first one is maybe not the most important one, but I think it's kind of important to understand why usually the jokes ChatGPT tells are not the best ones. And I think this is also a great example which makes you understand how this technology works. And this is in telling jokes, and you will know it from your personal life, it's important to know how you're gonna finish the joke, right? So you start the joke, when thinking of the joke, you just think how you want to finish the joke, so the joke reveals a story, an aha moment, and everyone laughs. GPT and ChatGPT and all these generative AI tools have the problem. They don't know how they will finish the text. So they always predict the next 4 digits or the 4 next letters, spaces, and so on, the so-called tokens. So this is at least currently a weak point. It's telling jokes, but behind this is a big technical challenge. The AI technology doesn't know how the joke will end when it starts writing it. Therefore, of course, you get also some good jokes, but many times they are not really funny because they are missing the punchline. Okay, so it's not good for telling jokes. Maybe the humanity can survive also without good jokes, but I think it's a good example to explain how this technology works. Secondly, providing numbers. Of course, big numbers or very well numbers the ChatGPT provides quite well, but we have many and hundreds and thousands of examples that it really invents numbers like benchmarks, and we had requests like how many assets under management does ING DBA have, and you'll get a perfect answer, including the substructure, and all is mathematically correct, but the numbers are quite invented. So not quite invented, absolutely invented. And if you ask in 2 minutes, again, you get different set of numbers. That means I basically say never trust a number from GPT unless it is a very well-known one, like birth dates of Steve Jobs and some more numbers. But I would say never trust a number from GPT. Searching for links, we see this also many times. ChatGPT, also directly or via Brian, is used to search for websites, and this is not a good use case. You often get a fantastically looking website link, but often this link, it doesn't just exist. Okay, so it invents perfectly fitting looking websites, but which don't exist. Of course, it doesn't have the actual information if you don't use the Bing integration. Performing logic tasks, so it improves significantly with the switch from GPT 3.5 to the GPT 4. Of course, currently the file handling, but of course this is in making. And then what I find is an interesting point is that the technology is able to give you really very detailed information and how to and so for very detailed and specific problems, like, I don't know, how to clean shoes out of special kind of dirt or something. You'll get a very detailed and very great and helpful information. And it also gives you hints when you say, I would like to found a startup in this area, and I don't want to this and that. You'll get perfectly the big pictures. So what it's not able to do is really connect the dots and build the mosaic or the puzzle, bringing individual solutions and things together. And I would say the consultants often have this job to put or connect the dots together. And in this area, I would say ChatGPT or is one of the areas where a GPT is not strong enough. That means to think in very complex structures which really fit the individual solutions. Yeah, so they can do the small, they can do the big, but they cannot connect small to big. Yeah, this would be the summary. Now I would guide you through some examples. It will be a little bit too quick. If you would like to see these examples or have this examples and maybe digest a little bit more, just I will share at the end my email address. Just ping me an email. I'm happy to share with you this presentation. So I said there are a few areas where it's good to use GPT directly or via Brian, is becoming smarter, developing content, and so on. So getting smarter. What we find is it works perfectly well. It's really definitions. If you are new to a topic, industry, whatever, ask for definitions. They are great. If you would like to have a short summary about anything like financial crisis, just do TLDR, financial crisis 2008, and you will get a great summary of this. And you can ask for any event, any content, and so on, as long as it's quite well known. Okay. Then what is really unique about, and sometimes people compare GPT with search results, is you can compare stuff never compared before. Okay, there are comparisons between LLC and corporations, but you can compare any two companies, facts, and so on. You get great comparison of things who never compared before. Then you can ask for differences and also similarities. You can ask for value chains if you would like to understand an industry. You can ask for competitors. For competitors, of course, you have multiple sources, but the competitors, especially for well-known companies, are great, and you can really specify the competitor search also for a certain area of business like gas turbines of Siemens, and these competitors list are quite good. Then you can ask why questions. And this is also great because this answers also questions nobody asks sometimes before. Of course, in this case, it is the case, but many not. And then you can ask also for advantages of something. Yeah. So I think for comparing, understanding, getting smarter, it's really, really great. Simple, short request, very helpful result. So develop content. So when you're really on a project, you can start working with the GPT technology via Brian or ChatGPT. And what I find interesting is really how it's able to create hypotheses. So there is hypothesis-driven consulting. You can really, for one of the core tasks of management consulting, you can really use this in technology very well. You can say, tell me hypothesis for decreasing margin in a car rental company. You can also provide some more information or say this and that, it's not the case, and you get great hypotheses which you then in course of your project can validate, assess, and develop further. You can draft bullets, you can draft questions if you are preparing for a consulting job candidate or an interview with a company head or and so on. You can ask for drafting concepts, brainstorming, and getting pros and cons. I know as consultant, I've done it quite few years. Sometimes it's kind of brain yoga to create these pros and cons slides, and with this technology, it's quite impressive how well formulated pros and cons you get as a first starting point, or maybe also as an additional point if you say, I have some, but I would like to have more. Great source. Be a better boss. This is maybe from a different category, not relevant just for consultants. It's really when you are preparing for the interview with your colleague, you can prepare for it. So you can ask how to structure an employee feedback talk, how to give feedback, maybe also in critical areas. Sometimes you have maybe a colleague, maybe which is not the most motivated one. So, and you can ask how to give negative work feedback if the person seems to be lazy. Okay, so also critical questions you can ask and you get quite good answer. Also, sometimes I had the situation in consulting, sometimes you have colleagues which are quite junior and then you expect them um, to excel in front of senior target groups. And you can also get something like what advice can you give a colleague who is perceived to be too junior? So you can be very specific in your personal work, what you would like to do, and you get quite good hints for this. You can ask for motivation ideas and what to offer beyond the pay. So then the next area is preparing for meetings. So you are preparing for a workshop, for a kickoff, and so on. So you can ask to draft an agenda. You can also say what's the duration of the meeting, and you'll really get proposed agenda, including meeting minutes allocation to the meeting points. You can ask also how to break up the participants in the group and so on, what concerns to expect, and what is the best possible outcome of a meeting of certain kind. Understand others. I think this is quite interesting. We often say that AI is not understanding us humans, but we humans often don't understand each other either. And what I find interesting, that I find it key insightful, really to understand others. So especially if you are preparing for a project and maybe you are new on a project and you are preparing to deal with the department head of marketing or communication, you can ask what the key tasks of the communication department are, or its head. What are the abbreviations marketing people use, so you don't seem to be too junior in the meeting, so you are prepared for the most common abbreviations. You can ask what the key challenges are of a specific role in a specific industry, what the people like to hear. So what does a CEO of a car manufacturer likes to hear? Of course, this goes a little bit in the manipulative way or direction, but still I think it can be very helpful to understand what they what news they like to hear, and what's the meaning of words the people use, right? So if a CFO talks about covenants, what does he mean? This is a real-time situation, a real-life situation from my early years in consulting. So then get more productive. Of course, you can, in general, ask the technology to draft emails, paragraphs, hacks, or tools. So which tools are used where? Of course, a little bit outdated because the database for GPT 3.5 and 4 is both September 2021. So it's a little bit updated, but still many of the most common tools are already longer there. And then we have, for example, Excel formula. You can ask for Excel formulas, which features to use in Excel. So Excel and Excel's macros, trouble solving, and also conditional formatting. I always hated this conditional formatting. If you don't do it too often, you don't know what to and how to do it. And this is what you can ask. You can get quite good hints how to do it. That means what it leads to is that you can also onboard your employees faster, or your colleagues, even if they are not Excel experts with GPT, they can become Excel experts much faster. So this would be the overview of GPT in consulting, like the general one. I would like to share also our story, how we approach the generative AI in our Brian, which is then AI assistant for management consultants and business professionals, and then we'll come to the outlook. So the idea to build Brian popped up in my mind end of 2017, translating documents. Nobody likes to do it, and I thought, what a stupid thing to do manually or copy pasting to Google, which is not just time consuming, but also security wise questionable. And at the same time, there are thousands and thousands amazing tools out there. This is just the top of the iceberg. I think these are the 1,200 leading AI and data sources, which I find very helpful. This overview is updated once a year. And there are so many tools out there, but nobody knows them, not all of them, doesn't have access to them, asks himself if it's secure and so on. And therefore, the idea was to build Brian as integrated access to multiple data sources and digital services. And one of them is now also the GPT technology from OpenAI or Microsoft. Multifunctional, simple via email, team, Slack, blah, blah, blah. GDPR compliant and ISO 27001 certified regarding data security. So we created, so to say, a corporate ready digital assistant for consultants and other business professionals. The skills we have teach Brian so far, I will not go through all, by far not through all of his skills, but he's having file handling skills, research skills, where he provides data from paid data sources, slide graphics, so he provides also digital assets, partly also AI generated pictures. And what I want to highlight is how we integrated the GPT technology from OpenAI in Brian's skills since end of 2021. We fine-tuned it for drafting bullets, for formulation tasks like email paragraphs and so on, brainstorming, and industry brief. This is maybe the one I would also show you how exactly it looks like. And here a little bit highlighted is Ask Anything. That means since 1.5 months now, we have seen that the user expectations completely changed after the release of ChatGPT. And therefore, also people started to expect from Brian to be as smart as ChatGPT, and we ensured this by this Ask Anything fallback. That means if Brian doesn't recognize a translation job, a research job, a slide graphics job, or some other deterministic skills, then he triggers, and the user says he's okay with it, then he triggers GPT request. So basically, we made ChatGPT available via Teams as a corporate approach to it. So maybe before I go further to the comparison of GPT via Brian versus directly via ChatGPT, I would like to show you how exactly it looks in practice. So here I am in Teams in the Ask Brian app. There is our own official Microsoft Teams app in the store. And this skill has been released this week, so it's great that we are having this call today. You just say industry brief, automotive UK. That means you would like to understand an industry a little bit better because you are writing a proposal, or B, because you are starting a project in an industry and you would like to know the basics of it. And what Brian gives you within 1 minute, so you see 8:47, 8:48, you get the list of all publicly traded companies from auto industry in the UK. You get a list of latest news about automobiles in the UK. You get the industry KPIs for Europe, and you get this industry primers presentation. And this is also where I dig a little bit deeper, because I think this is the most impressive one, because it's an endless and is also generated with the input from GPT as of now. Is you get industry introduction. So what is this industry about? Key products, hubs, leading companies, target markets. You get the industry value chain. So how this industry really works. Sometimes it's more boring, sometimes it's quite interesting, especially if these are a little bit exotic industries. Then you get Porter's 5 forces with current competition, substitutes, entrants, suppliers, and buyers. Then you get the key challenges of the automotive industry in the United Kingdom, especially for consultants, so you know the key pain points, and also what are the mega trends in each of the individual industries. So, and this is, as I said, you get this kind of result within 1 minute, and this is only thanks to generative AI. These parts before you can generate also in other ways, but this you would need a huge database for any industry and country combination. But with GPT, you can get quite realistic, quite good results within 1 minute, as I said. And this is also where we had on with Brian's development to combine structured and generative AI results into one seamless interface. So when we compared, so sometimes we get also this question, why should I use GPT via Brian and not directly? Here's some differences important to our clients. Of course, it's not for everyone, but the first one is server location. So we host the server in Europe. ChatGPT uses per default USA. Requests are not used for retraining. In our case, we keep the user anonymity in front of OpenAI, so we share only the text of the request, but not the identity of the user nor his company. Grounding for consultants, this is the word which has been established for the prompt engineering. So when you use Brian directly, especially for the pre-trained GPT powered skills, you don't need to do this prompt engineering because we do it automatically. So we already attach to every request of the user, act as a experience management consultants, helping the clients to be better, faster, and so on. Keep it short and crisp and la la la. And this is what we do in addition to the additional to your request. So we put on top training so you get better consulting style results when you get the results from Brian. Factual data integration, yes, we have it. It's interesting, of course, in which direction ChatGPT is going with their add-ins and so on. And it's also an convenience aspect that with Brian, you can communicate via email, Teams, and Slack, while for ChatGPT, you need to go to website, log in, and so on. It's an additional convenience and security point. And yes, it sounds a little bit strange. You can write an email to ChatGPT via Brian. So this is the basic comparison. And now we come to the Outlook. We have 10 minutes left, so I try to make the Outlook in 5 minutes. So we have at least 5 minutes of time for your questions and my answers. So what is the Outlook? So when there has been a survey a few weeks ago, I have seen on consulting.de, it was an Adesso survey among 500 business managers. And the question was, what are the expected AI ChatGPT use cases of the management levels? And the first answer is customer support. So this is where business managers in Germany expect the generative AI to have the biggest impact. And I would say I completely understand it because there are there is a big chunk of repetitive work, content work, and also the creators of OpenAI's GPT say the topic of content moderation is one of the biggest real-life impacts the technology will have. And customer support is, in fact, content moderation. That means presenting given content in a specific form based on the request. And I totally understand it. And if you also read the press release from Bain, why they are working with OpenAI, this is one of the key use cases they see also for their cooperation with OpenAI, also with Coca-Cola. And so it's really the customer support. Interestingly, the number 2 is research. And I would put a big question mark to it, especially because you cannot trust any number coming from GPT. That would be my general rule. So I would say researching qualitative topics, yes, but with question marks. But numbers, basically, I would not trust any number. I would always check. Content for internal and external communication, I would say the content needs to come from you. You just get the package, the wording, and this, of course, is a big use case, right? Because these departments are working with language, with writing text, and here, of course, generative AI is strong. The best combination is human or a structured database provides the content, and generative AI does the package around it. So data analytics, somehow I understand it. Yes, I've seen also use cases. Yes, you can think this, but I think this will not be the main use case of generative AI. I think there are other technologies superior to this. Individual customer outreach, yes. In sales, I would say this is a use case because you can customize your story in a mass way, fully automated way. Yes. Market and competitor analysis, again, qualitative, yes. Qualitative, no. Support in software development, yes. So basically, I would say in the world, the one of the biggest impacts will be in software development, and then in content creation, marketing, and communication. This will be the biggest impacts. I hope it's not too disturbing that I write so many comments here, but I think it helps a little bit to get orientation where in the story I am. So Then when it comes to our plans with Brian, as you see, we have for 23 some plans. And I highlighted also to encourage or to communicate this message. The most of our planned updates for 2023 will be powered by OpenAI's GPT technology or an alternative. So always when I use this logo of OpenAI, it means this could be BART, this could be Aleph Alpha, depending who is the best in terms of quality, security, and price for our clients. So we will also not just add additional features with this technology, but we will also upgrade Brian's brain. So the very core of Brian to make him even more intelligent than he is today. What are the additional data sources? Private company, because we know numbers you need from different sources, not from AI, and factual information. Many of our users, and when we see the request to Brian, the most of the requests Brian is not able to answer right now, it's research. So management consultants are searching for information, insights, benchmarks, best practices, numbers. And this is also why we'll connect to Wolfram Alpha, which is an additional approach to world knowledge in a quantitative, predictable way. So these are our plans for this year. Basically, of course, we also include some other stuff, but I just wanted to highlight the topic. Many of the skills we will build will be powered by GPT, and because we are hosting the service in Europe, we can now, for the first time, also do some of the document-to-document use cases or document-to-text use cases. So then maybe the next month, nobody is a wizard, right? But this is my view. So what I find are the most exciting developments to expect in the next months. So the first one is the auto GPT models. I don't know if you've seen already some examples, but basically you let GPT do some work, you give it basically access to internet, give it a task, and it keeps on performing tasks until the entire task is done. This means this is the combination of the smart AI and a browser, and you could say a web crawler, which can really complete also kind of complicated tasks. So it creates subtasks and starts executing them until you stop it or until a defined moment. I think this is very strong for special use cases like really analyzing companies' websites, scraping information from some data source. And so I think this is very strong. Multimodal GPT. This is interesting. In a demo of OpenAI, you've seen that how to turn a scribble on a piece of paper into a functioning website. And this will make, why I'm excited about it, because if it confirms everything, how the demo was, it would enable us to make the dream come true, to enable Scribble to slide. So you can make a photo of a flip chart or a piece of paper, and the technology in Brian will turn this into a PowerPoint slide. So this will be awesome. Regulatory pushback. This is interesting. It will come. If Italy is a role model for other countries, I expect rather not, because we see also our users from Italy still use Brian, and it's very difficult to hold this. But of course, it is a risk that there will be some countries or some areas where it also definitely makes sense to regulate this industry. So this is, of course, important, but I think it will be a very difficult game for the regulators. Small and custom LLMs. So we have seen that also a language model called Alpaca from Stanford with 7 billion parameters compared to 175 billion parameters from OpenAI's GPT can deliver similar results. So small and custom LLMs will be interesting. For example, also Bloomberg working on their custom LLM standing for large language model. GPT integration in MS Office, of course, it's interesting how it will look like, or also regarding privacy, security, especially in Europe, usability, and also the pricing. And what, of course, one of the most interesting questions for many is the quest for AGI, when AGI is standing for artificial general intelligence. So there are also already some people saying we are already there. We have this AGI, some not. But if we take the definition from Alan Turing with all his questions and so on, then the GPT-4 version of OpenAI's models is fulfilling this artificial general intelligence test. So depending on which test you take, the technology, the GPT-4 already passes these tests. So of course it will be everything smarter, and it's not all knowing, and of course it makes mistakes. But when we take the definition of Alan Turing from a few decades ago, yes, it's passing it. Yeah? So, and now questions, answers. So I'm happy to connect. So feel free to contact me via LinkedIn, ping me an email. Also, if you would like to have this slide deck, just ping me an email and we'll share with you this presentation. And if you would like to learn more, maybe also in an interactive demo session, then just scan this code and contact with me. Just pick and choose a date, and I'm happy to, together with my colleagues, to exchange with you, to talk about your situation, your experience with AI, or if you see space for GPT, for Brian. But so far, thank you very much for your attention.